Something shifted this week, or something shifted this week. Behind the scenes, quiet orders are moving through the chain of command. Names are being whispered, files long hidden, suddenly surfacing. And the president, let's just say, his patience run out. The question now isn't if the hammer drops, it's when and on who. If this is the moment we've been waiting for, the moment when the untouchables are finally touched, because for the first time in years, the pieces are aligning, the intelligence, the evidence, the motive. There's talk of a reckoning, a real one. And what I'm about to show you is what it looks like. The aftershocks will rattle the very foundations of Washington, and this time, Trump says the quiet part out loud, pointing directly at Pam Bondi in a public setting, a public speech, not holding back his words, giving a direct order in the form of a question, not mincing words, asking for action. And that's the story I'll bring you in 1 minute. Can't wait to get to the main story today. It's not just whispers this time. Did you see the new declassifications? There was 2 of them. Tulsi Gabbard's latest emails exposing James Clapper's admitting something about the recent January 2017 Russia report, not recent declassification. You know, again, let's just compromise the normal procedure. Kash Patel revealing something in another file he found about Sally Yates. The question has always been who will face justice first, huh? But of course we have more serious headlines. At the HuffPost, Trump's jobs nominee spotted at insurrection, because this is journalism. That's their headline story, folks. If you want real news, go to HuffPost. Oh, is that scary? Of course, it comes from the same publication that puts, now Jimmy Fallon is using Taylor Swift to suggest Trump had sinister ties to Epstein. I guess that's what the news cycle gives you nowadays, and that's up at the top too. Very important story to them. When there is no stories of any significance, because there's no progress happening, there's nothing good happening. Let's just keep Epstein in the front and center headlines, because I guess when all you have is bad news in your eyes to report, such as, another major win against USAID for President Trump, you certainly wouldn't want to report on that, because a victory for President Trump and his administration as USAID continues to crumble away. Mainstream media really doesn't report this to you, but we do here at Restrict the Republic. Of course, that's why you're here, right? As Melania Trump, in her lawsuit, thankfully, at least her threatening lawsuit against Hunter Biden, I'm sure you heard about it, because of an interview that he did. Hunter Biden states that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania to Trump, a lie so egregious that Melania's lawyers just successfully secured a retraction from the Daily Beast. Well, if you go to find the article, it's gone. As a matter of fact, even the headline is removed from the top bar, if you notice. And why? Well, Melania wasn't too happy. So she put a $1 billion notice, a false and defamatory lawsuit against anyone if they were to keep that story up and running. Daily Beast, James Carville, and Hunter Biden. James Carville apologized after publishing similar claims. Daily Beast pulls the story down. Hunter Biden put on notice the lawsuit to him. Always have facts and figures here. You see, Trump isn't playing anymore, and his family isn't playing anymore. This is no longer a game. They are done playing the victim. Not that they ever did. Unfortunately, they've had to play defense for so long, they haven't had a chance to get on offense. And it's nice to see him taking the offensive. And remember, at the end of this video, you're going to see him take the ultimate offensive, now pointing directly at Pam Bondi. Literally pointing directly at Pam Bondi. Calling for something that we've all been waiting for. Oh, it's a beautiful thing to watch. But updates. So nice to see updates, huh? Red State. Newly declassified cache of emails expose inner workings of Obama, Russiagate. This is actually new, by the way, folks. This is not old. They're just continuing to trickle them out, little bit by little bit. Now, as they're trickling them out, they're smaller and smaller and smaller, but they're more refined. This one is dumbfounding. Miranda Devine put it out. Bumbling Obama aides actually admit Russiagate was a smear campaign against Trump. You're like, that's nothing new. Well, it kind of is, actually. Michael Rogers comes out. Michael Rogers, who was acting DNI. Michael Rogers was then director of the National Security Agency at the time. He has a few questions about this intelligence report. I just returned from an overseas trip and been updated on the current status of efforts to produce a joint product related to Russia attribution and intended for blah, 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 blah. And I know you want it fast-tracked. However, I have a few questions, and I'd like to ask you these questions and concerns that some people within my community have asked. And what is the answer that he receives from James Clapper? He wants to make sure this is going through the normal process. We have a few questions for you. Would you mind answering them? James Clapper's response is legendary. His response is this. You see up on top, James Clapper to Michael Rogers. This is how black and white it was, folks. This is how corrupt these institutions were. Understand your concern, Mike. And by the way, Brennan is on here. James Comey is on here. You see him in the CC. James Clapper to Mike Rogers. John Brennan. James Comey. Stephanie O'Sullivan. Understand your concerns. It is essentially, I'll go full screen. I want you to be able to read this with me. That we all be on the same page and are all supportive of the report in the highest tradition that our story, that this is our story, we're sticking to it. This evening, CIA has provided to the NIC the complete draft generated by the ad hoc fusion cell. We will facilitate as much mutual transparency as possible as we complete the report, but more time is not negotiable. We have to compromise on our normal modalities. Since we must do this, and you see here, since we must do this on such a compressed schedule, we must compromise on our normal procedure. See, on this one, this must be a team sport. Wait now. So you want to jeopardize all procedure, all normal procedure. You want to jeopardize an intelligence report that we know that you've compromised any normal intelligence gathering, vetting out of intelligence, with the potential and what was the real outcome of destroying a man's career and ability to even function in his administration, because you want it to be a team sport. So in other words, if you don't go along with us, you're not joining as part of the team. This is how these folks played. So it was the Beltway Bandits or bust. Tulsi Gabbard, new declassified top secret email sent on December 22nd of 2016, complying with President Obama's order to create the manufacture January 2017 ICA about Russia exposed how DNI Clapper demanded the IC, intelligence community, fall in line behind the Russia hoax. Clapper admits it was a team sport that required compromise on our normal procedures. No big deal, right? I wonder what else they compromised on. Well, it appears just about everything, including even investigations of the Clinton Foundation. Or you thought it was simply over with Clapper and Comey and Brennan? No, folks, it doesn't stop there. No, it never stopped there. It was the Beltway Bandits through and through. Now, I'm going to give you the details of this. This is literally how black and white it is, how easy it is to run through all of this. But first, I want to ask you a favor, as we do every day, because you've helped me continue to grow this channel, and it is taking off again. Thank you for that. So please continue to make sure you're subscribed. I love you helping me to share these videos. It means the absolute world to me. Your comments have been amazing. They've driven future broadcasts. They've driven exclusive content on our platform at Restricted Republic. That's what I use those comments for. The videos that I'm comfortable putting here, I put on the public platforms. The ones I am not, I move over to Restricted Republic. There's certain content that, well, plain and simply, some of the advertisers at YouTube don't like. So I move them to Restricted Republic. Great. That's why we bought the platform. That's why we created it. That's why so many of you have moved over there to get all the news. Unfiltered, uncensored, no commercials. We'd love you over at restrictedrepublic.com. You see it flashing down below. Join us there. Join us here as a member. Make sure you're always subscribed. It means the world to us. And now let's get back to this video, which continues on something entirely different now, because Kash Patel also had a series of documents. At least one in particular we're going to cover today that he just released. John Solomon covered it exclusively from Just the News. There was an investigation going on into the Clinton Foundation, actually multiple investigations, and many good FBI officials tried to investigate it coming out of New York and Washington and Little Rock, and at every turn they were stopped and said, hey, we don't really want you looking into this too deep. Andrew McCabe, deputy director, I really don't want you looking into that unless I approve it, and so it was shoved aside. Multiple U.S. attorneys, according to John Solomon, said, hey, really don't want you to look at that. And they pushed it aside. Amazing, man. I would love to have that deference to people just like, hey, don't look into that guy. He's kind of a good guy. Let him go. Just look the other way. Wouldn't it be nice if life worked that way? But what if you had the top dog, the Attorney General of the United States of America under Obama? What if you had their protection? Well, that wouldn't exactly be legal, of course, if the charges were proved to be true. And at the time, that would have been Sally Yates, right? What if there was evidence that the Attorney General of the United States of America did the same thing? Of course, there wouldn't be evidence or paper trail behind that. Now, would there be? All while Donald Trump was on the campaign trail saying, lock her up. Remember that? Lock her up. It wouldn't be possible that maybe the FBI or people were trying to actually investigate something that could be a crime, which could result in that very claim of lock her up. Now, would there be? And what if the Attorney General was looking the other way for the very claim that was being made by Donald Trump? That would be just outrageous. Except there was. Strange as it was. Everything you thought that couldn't be true. Possibly in March, at the direction of former, we don't know, sent an email requesting concurrently to obtain supporting documents, willing to provide them voluntarily through McCabe's directives, never received permission to seek the documents, possibly March, unknown exact date. Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates to the DOJ ordered the investigation to, shut it down. If that's proven to be beyond a shadow of a doubt, an investigation into the same foundation that it appears to be directly linked to, that would be the Attorney General of the United States ordering an investigation into the very foundation that was running a candidate against President Trump to shut down an investigation. I don't know how much more evidence. I mean, I guess it could all be superficial and suspect, but in this amount and in this supply, are they really going to be able to disprove all of this? Because it's kind of overwhelming. Every day I seem to be able to find more and more, thanks to, Kash Patel, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard, and thanks to the more people that are peeled out of the system, the more of these Beltway bandits that are removed, the more of this that comes up, because the whistleblowers are feeling safer and safer at finding this and releasing it to the good guys. And so we're able to see more of this now. Amazing, isn't it? I wonder what else is going to come out. I told you the pace would pick up. And we wonder why now they're creating strike forces and reaction forces to be deployed across the country in case of civil disturbances. Washington Post put this out. We still have some leakers out there, so they haven't cleaned everything up yet, or else we would never find out about reaction forces to be spread out across the country to 300 units, one in Arizona and one in Mississippi or Georgia, I believe. I should read real quick. Alabama and Arizona, that's close. To 300 strike forces in case of civil disturbance. Now I guess we understand, huh? But I guess the corruption has run rampant for a while, huh? But there's been no, and I understand your aggravation. We continue to look for prosecutions, maybe even people, eventually behind bars. Adam Schiff is somebody many of you have complained about for a long time. Adam Schiff, now in these big charges coming out against him, just out, irrefutable proof that Adam Schiff approved plan to leak classified information to damage Donald Trump. You've seen that evidence post out. We've talked about it. Well, Adam Schiff finally responds. Sorry, Donald, wrong again. Even Bill Barr. Now it all makes sense with Bill Barr, doesn't it? If you don't remember, I'll tell you in a second. Even Barr's Justice Department rejected the false smears years ago. But while we're on the subject of confidential information, how about releasing those Epstein files? Because now the Democrats care about the Epstein files suddenly, right? We're all still waiting. But you see, Bill Barr used to make no sense to people. Like, why would Adam Schiff say Bill Barr? But now we understand why suddenly they all use Bill Barr, who now allegedly was plotting against President Trump the whole time. So now we understand why these Beltway bandits are using Bill Barr, who now appears to be one of the number one Beltway bandits. Doesn't it all make sense now? How many were there? Who were the actual good guys, if there was any whatsoever? But what's going to be done about all this? Nothing, right? Trump seems to have taken a back seat. Don't worry, Bondi's got it. Cash has got it. Tulsi's got it. Well, it appears he finally hit his breaking point. And until Trump hits his breaking point, really nothing seems to ever happen. And if you've watched this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Until Trump comes forward and says, take care of it, nothing really happens. And then he made a speech at the Kennedy Center yesterday. Probably a lot of you didn't catch it. It's okay. Makes a lot of speeches. Says a lot of things. Talks a lot. But some of us have learned, while we're driving in our vehicles, to watch these speeches. And at the very last few minutes of a 54-minute speech, 54 minutes and 30 seconds, as a matter of fact, right around the 53-minute and 10-second mark, he says something that, again, nobody really catches because people don't put the time in. Through my life, I've learned one lesson. Roll up your sleeves and put the time in, and you'll be rewarded for the work you do. And why? Because you catch snippets like this that everyone else misses. And this, my friends, is what's called a direct order from your boss. And when you get this order from your boss, who happens to be the Don, who happens to be the president, who happens to be Orange Man Bad to the left, things tend to happen. And is this it? I've seen actions after words like this, and now I want you to listen in and tell me what you think.
Good conversation with Vladimir. I knew him very well. I got along with him great, actually. We had I had to go through the Russia hoax. And it was a strain on the relationship. I actually told him, I said, they got this phony investigation going on, Russia, totally phony, created by Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it. These people put our country at great danger. And Adam Schiff, it was all made up. It was a hoax. The Mueller report came out. They all hated me. They had 18 Trump haters.
Now, my friends, I've seen him do a lot in his career. And one thing that is always very resolutely specific. He was looking at her before he said it. He physically pointed at her. He called her name. And then he gave her a direct order. And I hope I am looking at you, Pam. And I hope you are going to do something about it. And then he gave a number of people afterwards. Now that is entirely different than what we have heard before. And nobody else is going to tell you that because they won't spend the time. They won't make the connection because this was an innocuous speech at the Kennedy Center that had nothing to do with anything until he gives a direct order. And now you wait and you see, because you'll be the only ones who know about it. And you'll be ahead of everyone else. I can't wait to see in the comments below what you think. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight. Signing out.